I want to leave the military part of the analysis because Russia is showing her capacity to pursue her objective to the end. And Russia has also said we're not going to leave until Ukraine commits itself to be a neutral state. It will never join NATO. But the people of the Western world and also the rest of the world who are now suffering and who will suffer even more as a consequence of the response of the West to Russia's intervention in Ukraine, they will now have to ask themselves, why is it that we have to suffer? Because they say, no, Ukraine has the right to join NATO. No, Ukraine has the right to join NATO. No, Ukraine has the right to join NATO. And because of that, the whole world must now suffer. But Ukraine will have to humble itself. Ukraine will have to submit. There's no other alternative. Ukraine will have to submit and to accept that we will be a neutral state. And so no joining of NATO. All the whole world suffering because of this stupidity. Ukraine has the freedom to join NATO. So guess what will happen now? It is not the military affairs and the strategic affairs that I want to discuss. What I want to discuss is the sanctions which have been imposed on Russia as a consequence of Russian military intervention in Ukraine. And my response is that it is shameful, it is disgraceful, and it is manifestly sinful to use trade as a weapon of war, to use business as a weapon of war, to use food as a weapon of war. You have to be a people with absolutely no moral consciousness whatsoever. It was the kuffar, the mushrikeen, the idolaters of Mecca. They were the ones who imposed an economic boycott on Prophet Muhammad والسلام, and his small band of Muslims for 3 years. Economic boycott, and we suffered. We suffered. But we never in our history, we have never used trade as a weapon. Not this civilization. We've never used business as a weapon. We've never used food as a weapon. You have to be scandalously so an absolutely godless people to impose economic sanctions as a weapon of war. And this is sinful. People are going to be suffering now because of your stupidity in imposing economic sanctions on Russia, monetary sanctions as well. In the process of trying to hurt Russia with your sanctions, destroy Russia with your sanctions, you are destroying your own selves. Because what you're doing is sinful. And in Surah Al-Rahman of the Quran, the Lord God has said that He's going to intervene. He spoke 31 times. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. You are violating, you are rejecting the signs of the Lord God. You're rejecting truth. You're embracing falsehood and oppression. And there'll come a day when the Lord God is going to intervene. It's coming soon. The Great War. And in that Great War, the Lord God has said, بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ سَنَفْرُغُ لَكُمْ أَيُّهَا الثَّقَلَانِ. I urge you to read my little book, the Quran, the Great War, and the West. سَنَفْرُغُ لَكُمْ أَيُّهَا الثَّقَلَانِ. The Lord God is going to intervene. And He's going to deal with you because you are laden with sin. Laden with sin. That's the modern West. those who control power. When will the Great War take place? My answer, which will surprise you, is that the legal state of war has already commenced. That when you're imposing these sanctions and seizing Russian property, seizing Russian money, stealing it, you are declaring war. That's what they've done to Russia. I think $300 billion worth of Russian money stolen, frozen, Russian property, Russian aircraft, they're just seizing them, freezing them. This is a declaration of war. Russia cannot sell her oil. Russia cannot sell her wheat, her food. It is something commendable. And we have to give credit where credit is due. That India, the Indian government, has so far resisted these Western sanctions. And the Indian government is prepared to continue doing business with Russia. And for this we must commend the Indian government, regardless of what our critics may say. But what I want to say concerning the Great War is not only that the legal state of war has already commenced, but also that Russia has the right to choose the time of his own choice to commence the fighting, because you are strangulating Russia. And when someone is being strangulated, you put a rope around his neck and you're tightening it. He is the one who will decide when he will choose to decide what to do to remove the rope from among it. It's not you who will decide when the war will take place. He will decide because you are strangulating him. If he has the power to remove the rope from around his neck and dispose of those who are attacking him, then he will choose the time to do it. So I don't know when Russia will do it. But I want to end this talk by saying, not only are economic sanctions sinful, prohibited by the Islam, prohibited by the Quran, prohibited by the Prophet ﷺ, we are a people who stand for a free and a fair market. And even when war is taking place, the free and the fair market must remain. The only thing that we'll prohibit is trade in weapons of war when a war is taking place. That's all. Other than that, the free and fair market must continue even when a war is taking place. This is Islam. And our Christian brothers, I'm sure, would agree with us that weapons, that trade and business and food must never become a weapon of war. So you are strangulating Russia. This is sinful. And the Lord God is going to intervene when the war takes place, and perhaps it is Russia who will decide when the war will begin, the fighting will begin. I don't think it will take much time for the war to be over, but our prophet has prophesied they're going to be fighting for the mountain of gold, because what the sanctions are doing is the sanctions are causing the monetary system to collapse. It's already vulnerable, the petrodollar monetary system. And I gave my interpretation of the hadith long years ago. Our Prophet said that sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, that the river Euphrates will uncover a mountain of gold. And people will fight for the gold. And 99 out of every 100 who fight for that gold will be killed, but the believers must not touch the gold. The sheep and the cattle can continue to sit on a sofa waiting for a mountain of the metal to come out from underneath the river. Let's leave them. We say, no, this is mutashabihah. It was in 1974, an ocean of oil underneath the river began to function as a mountain of gold when the petrodollar monetary system was created by Henry Kissinger. when oil was sold for only US dollars. And they accepted that. That caused the US dollar to survive for so long. And today Russia says we will not sell our oil except for rubles. It's the same thing. And now you want to you want to condemn them for what you were doing all this time? So Nafrugo Lakobeika Sakalan, 99 out of every 100 will be killed in that war. And I am saying to you, the 99 will be from the West. Russia will survive and Russia will win the war. That's right. And the world after the Great War is the one in which Muslims must be concerned about. Because after the Great War, our Prophet prophesied the next event would be the conquest of Constantinople. I want to leave you now with this, that you have to prepare yourself for the conquest of Constantinople, which is an event prophesied by Nabi Muhammad والسلام, which will take place after the Great War. Apart from the sheep and the goats who believe that the Great War took place 600 years ago, leave them, they're nonsense. We know the Great War has not as yet taken place. When the Great War takes place, it's going to be a nuclear war. When the Great War takes place, the next event after that will be the conquest of Constantinople. And I want to leave you with this because I want to speak another occasion on that subject of the conquest of Constantinople. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.